they have posted who's your San Juan, Puerto Rico MVP. And these are the candidates: Paige Bueckers, Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, what? Ryan Howard. I can see Howard being in the mix here because her scoring has been lights out. Jackie Young, and then a bunch of other players down here. And all I can tell you is I don't know what happened because I went over and voted once early this morning.
Something very strange just happened with the FIBA World Cup MVP voting. And if you've been paying attention to how Caitlin Clark gets treated in women's basketball, what you're about to see is going to feel disturbingly familiar. This morning, Clark was dominating this fan vote by thousands. Then in the span of 15 minutes, everything flipped. We're talking about a 3,000 vote lead evaporating faster than any legitimate voting pattern could explain.
Caitlin Clark was running away with this joker. And then all of a sudden, this happened. I don't have any idea how Paige Bueckers got this many votes this quickly. And by the way, this was actually a wider spread for a little while. But Caitlin Clark and her fans are catching her up right now. But this was a pretty wide margin when I was over there this morning and Caitlin was leading. I noticed one comment said that Paige had 7,000 votes.
Look at those numbers. 168,000 votes, 156,000. These totals are exploding in real time, and the comment section is losing their minds. 7,000 votes appearing in 5 minutes for Paige Bueckers. That's not organic engagement. That's not fans rallying on social media. The math doesn't work. And here's what makes this particularly suspicious. Dallas Wings games featuring Bueckers weren't consistently selling out arenas this season. But we're supposed to believe she has this massive mobilized fan base that can generate thousands of votes in minutes.
Come in 5 minutes or something like that. And it's raising a lot of questions. People are raising, hey, what is going on? Suspect allegedly buying bots to help the Paige Bueckers win the fan vote. Gino Auriemma, the Yukon Mafia, guys, we've talked about them. I mean, the agenda is once again thick. It's real thick right now. I mean, you look down through here, and it is hilarious. All of the pro Caitlin Clark comments to the pro Paige Bueckers comments. It's like
the Yukon connection keeps coming up in these conversations, and it's not without reason. There's a history here. A pattern of preferential treatment, narrative control, and agenda-driven coverage that favors certain players over others. Gino Auriemma's program has deep media relationships. They've cultivated a network of journalists, analysts, and insiders who consistently push Yukon players into the spotlight. That's not conspiracy theory. That's documented reality. And when you see voting irregularities this blatant, people immediately connect the dots back to that infrastructure.
15 or 20 to 1. And I'm like, okay, something's not right. So are we talking about bots? It's starting to look like bots are flooding the Paige Bueckers situation. Somebody pointed out there's no way a 3,000 vote gap is surpassed in 15 minutes unless bots are involved. I mean, what is going on here? Right here, FIBA's been unserious this whole tournament, from commentary to this fake voting system. Disclaimer, this fan vote is not an official statement from FIBA.
FIBA included a disclaimer on this poll that should raise every red flag imaginable. They explicitly stated this fan vote is not an official statement from FIBA, meaning they're taking zero responsibility if the voting system gets compromised. Why would you include that language unless you knew your system was vulnerable to manipulation? It's like posting a survey and immediately saying we're not liable for fake responses. That's an admission that you can't verify the integrity of your own voting mechanism. And bot armies thrive in exactly these kinds of unprotected environments.
Meaning that there's going to be no responsibility if any foolishness goes down? Is that what we're doing here? Caitlin Clark is leading Team USA in points, assists, plus minus, efficiency. She's killing it. She's killing it right now. I mean, FIBA, you need to take this down. Both bases are buying bot votes. They're accusing the Caitlin Clark fan base of buying bot votes. I just don't know that I get that. That I agree with that. This was 4 hours ago. You can see right there, Caitlin was leading. And then all hell.
Let's talk about what Caitlin Clark actually did in this tournament. She's leading Team USA in points, assists, plus minus, and efficiency. She's been the most dominant player on the court, and it's not particularly close. Rhyne Howard has been excellent as a scorer, absolutely. Jackie Young has contributed, but Clark has been running the offense, creating opportunities, and putting up numbers that should make this MVP conversation straightforward. When you lead your team in every major statistical category during a tournament, the MVP recognition should follow naturally, unless something else is influencing the outcome.
Broke loose. I mean, we're talking, look at these amounts. 168,000, 156,000. What is going on? Damn, y'all using bots for Paige or what? It looks fishy. It looks very, very fishy. By the way, I don't love that you can vote over and over and over again. Paige fans, stop using bots. Actually vote. Right here, not going to lie, it's worthless to vote. Paige Bueckers fans are buying votes. She went up 7,000 votes in like 5 minutes.
The timeline tells you everything you need to know about what happened here. 4 hours before this voting surge, Clark was comfortably ahead. The vote totals were climbing at a normal, predictable rate. Then something changed. The gap didn't just close gradually, it reversed violently. Bueckers went from trailing by 3,000 to leading by similar margins in a window that defies organic explanation. People who monitor these systems professionally started calling it out immediately. When vote manipulation happens, it leaves fingerprints, sudden spikes, unnatural patterns, timestamps that don't align with social media activity or news cycles.
I don't believe. I mean, is there a way that they can get in there and find out if the votes are legit? If they've got a good IT team? Yes, absolutely. They could determine whether or not they were the vote is being artificially inflated. Never underestimate the agenda. Never underestimate the Yukon mob. We know how this goes. I mean, but we're talking about somebody, let's just keep it real.
Here's what makes bot manipulation so effective in these scenarios. FIBA allowed unlimited voting from the same users, no daily limits, no verification requirements. You could sit there and vote repeatedly, or more efficiently, you could deploy automated scripts to submit thousands of votes without human intervention. The comment section is filled with people pointing this out. They're not making vague accusations. They're describing specific technical vulnerabilities. The fact that you can vote over and over without any friction means the system was essentially designed to be gamed.
Real that many Dallas Wings games did not sell out. I mean, there were times that arena was not actually sold out, not full. And we're supposed to buy this? We're supposed to believe this. I don't know about you guys. I'm going to choose to give this the fuzzy eyeball. To give this thing the one ass eye.
The contrast between these two fan bases matters for understanding what happened. Caitlin Clark brought 3.2 million viewers to WNBA broadcasts this season. She sold out arenas across the league, including road games where the home team had never seen that kind of attendance. Her fan base is massive, engaged, and extremely active on social media. When they mobilize for something, you see genuine organic growth. Paige Bueckers has fans absolutely, but the scale and intensity doesn't match what we're seeing in these vote totals. The numbers don't align with any other measurable metric of fan base size or engagement. And this is where the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Because this isn't the first time we've seen suspicious circumstances surrounding recognition for Caitlin Clark versus Yukon-connected players. The Olympic roster situation, the Rookie of the Year narrative battles, the constant media questioning of her efficiency despite record-breaking numbers. There's a consistent effort to diminish her accomplishments while elevating alternatives, and it always seems to involve the same network of people and institutions. Think about the Olympic team selection in July 2024. Clark had just completed the most dominant rookie season in WNBA history, was driving unprecedented ratings and attendance, and was left off the initial roster. The explanations kept changing. First it was about experience. Then it was about team chemistry. Then it was about positional needs. Meanwhile, players with lesser statistical profiles and less impact on the league's growth made the cut. The decision was eventually reversed after public backlash, but the initial exclusion revealed the bias in the selection process. The Rookie of the Year race followed similar patterns. Despite Clark leading all rookies in points, assists, and every major efficiency metric, media narratives constantly tried to frame it as a tight competition. Angel Reese's rebounding numbers got amplified. Every Clark turnover got scrutinized. The statistical gap was massive, but the media coverage tried to manufacture drama where none existed based on the numbers. It took until late in the season for the consensus to finally acknowledge what the data had shown from Game 1. This FIBA voting irregularity fits perfectly into that established pattern. When legitimate metrics favor Clark, alternative systems or narratives emerge to challenge those results. And those challenges consistently benefit players with connections to specific basketball programs and media networks. The UConn pipeline isn't just about developing players, it's about maintaining influence over how those players get covered, recognized, and celebrated, even after they leave the program. The comment section responses on the FIBA post reveal how obvious this has become to people paying attention. They're not just complaining about their favorite player losing a vote, they're identifying specific technical indicators of manipulation. They're pointing out the mathematical impossibilities. They're referencing the disclaimer that FIBA included as evidence the organization knew this could happen. These aren't casual fans throwing accusations around. These are people who understand how online voting systems work and can recognize when those systems are being exploited. What particularly frustrating is that FIBA had the ability to prevent this. Human verification exists, CAPTCHA systems exist, IP address monitoring exists, daily vote limits exist. Every legitimate polling system uses these protections specifically to prevent bot manipulation. FIBA chose not to implement any of them. They created a system that was trivially easy to game, then added a legal disclaimer absolving themselves of responsibility when it inevitably got gamed. That's not an oversight, that's a choice. The broader question is why this keeps happening specifically around Caitlin Clark. Why does every recognition system seem to develop problems when she's the frontrunner? Why do the goalposts keep moving when her statistics dominate? Why do alternative narratives get pushed so aggressively by the same media voices? The answer points back to institutional resistance. Clark represents something that threatens established power structures in women's basketball. She's an outsider who achieved success without going through the traditional pipeline. She built her fan base organically rather than through legacy program connections. And that independence makes her dangerous to people who've controlled the narrative for decades. The UConn program has produced incredible players, nobody disputes that. But the program has also cultivated a media ecosystem that extends far beyond game coverage. Gino Auriemma has relationships with journalists that span decades. Those relationships influence how UConn players get covered, how their accomplishments get framed, and how they get positioned for post-college opportunities. When a player like Clark emerges from outside that system and immediately dominates, it disrupts the established order. The response isn't to celebrate her success, it's to find ways to diminish it or redirect attention elsewhere. This FIBA vote situation is small in the grand scheme of things. It's a fan poll that FIBA themselves said doesn't represent an official position, but it's symbolic of something much larger. It demonstrates the lengths to which certain factions will go to control narratives around these players. If they'll manipulate a meaningless fan vote, what else are they willing to manipulate? What other systems are vulnerable to this kind of interference? How much of what we see in media coverage, award voting, and roster decisions gets influenced by these same agendas? So here's what this comes down to. Caitlin Clark led Team USA in every major statistical category during this FIBA qualifying tournament. She was the best player on the court. The MVP recognition should have been straightforward. Instead, we got a voting system that allowed unlimited submissions without verification, a suspicious vote surge that defied all organic patterns, and an organization that preemptively disclaimed responsibility for the integrity of their own poll. And the player who benefited from these irregularities just happens to have connections to the exact program and media network that has consistently opposed Clark's rise. You can believe that's all coincidence if you want. You can accept the vote totals at face value and assume 15,000 people just happened to discover this poll and vote for Bueckers in a 15-minute window. But if you've been watching how Caitlin Clark gets treated in women's basketball since she entered the WNBA in April 2024, you know this fits a pattern. The agenda is real, the bias is documented, and it's not going away just because Clark keeps dominating on the court. What do you think happened with this vote? Do you buy the sudden surge as legitimate fan engagement, or does this look like bot manipulation to you? And more importantly, when does this pattern of treatment toward Caitlin Clark finally get addressed by the institutions that control women's basketball? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit subscribe if you want more honest coverage of what's really happening in this league, and let's see if FIBA actually investigates these voting irregularities, or just lets it slide like everything else.